Hey y'all, welcome in. We are here at Bales Farms. I'm Barry, this is Allison, and we've switched. Tomorrow, Saturday, is the first day of spring, right? So we're getting a jump on things and saying goodbye to Fireside Conviviality and hello to Front Porch Conviviality. We realize that we still have some cold weather left. We still have redbud winter, we still got dogwood winter, we got blackberry winter, and
that might be it.
Well, no, there's May 10th cold spell. Is that it? There's 4 more, and it got a little cool last night and today. It's been sunny and well, besides the 2 inches of rain we got yesterday, it's been warm. And it's not really terribly warm right now.
No.
So we may have been premature in our move.
Yes.
Oh well. It's not cold enough for a fire.
No, it's not.
So.
Plus, I'm tired of cleaning the fireplace.
Okay. Fair enough. Welcome in. Thanks for joining us again. Thanks for all the comments and questions and inquiries about when we're doing another one of these. We are trying to do them just at the right level to where you stay interested and it's not too much shoehorned in with our schedule. So here we are.
Here we are.
Allison has just returned from making deliveries to Johnson City, and I think she's a little fried. It's good. It's Friday.
It's been a busy week, and with the time change. People walk on the moon.
Today? Right now?
We just went to Mars.
I don't remember that.
And people...
You mean we?
Yes.
Not we.
Yes. And we have self-driving cars, but we still have the time change. We need to get rid of that.
Right. Right. Well,
It's just
write your
too
senator
much.
and congressman. Because
It's
they're
just
certainly
too
not
much.
doing much else.
Well, that's going to get us in trouble.
I'm
We
not
love
talking-
everyone. We love everyone.
I'm talking about both sides. I'm not talking about one side over the other one. So, speaking of politicians, what are you drinking today?
I am drinking a super yummy orange wine from Dry Farm Wines.
Get out.
Yeah.
Orange wine?
Orange wine.
Seriously?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a white wine, and I guess they keep it in the grape skins, and I don't know. If I spoke Italian, I could probably tell you what it is, but I don't. So, anyway, here it is. It's quite lovely.
It must be fragile.
It is fragile. What are you drinking?
I am having... What am I having? I've forgotten now.
Bourbon drink? It'll
No,
be
it's rye. I'll put it on the show notes, the
blog post.
blog post notes.
Right.
Dang, it just escaped
It's okay.
me.
Here, let's cheers.
Cheers.
It's been a busy week this week.
It's
We've
been a busy
had...
it's always busy, but it's been especially busy the last couple of weeks.
Yes.
I've been trying to, well, we're getting real close. We got about 3,300 feet of water line put in. Almost that much high tensile electric fence put in. In between that, trying to work on finishing up a new eggmobile and all the other stuff. So anyway, yeah, it's...
And we had our friend Tina Wilson down, who is a fabulous photographer and owns Tina Wilson Photography. And
it's funny how it worked out that way.
yes, and Reclaimed Inspired Goods. And Hannah Ringley also came down from Reclaimed, and
For
they
a photo
worked
shoot
with
for
us for an upcoming project.
For an upcoming project, yes,
Yes.
that's all we're going to say.
A very encouraging, and it'll be a fun project upcoming.
Sure, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So that was also this week, and had some family in, and having some family in tonight.
Well, yeah, free help, free
Right.
labor.
Right. So it's just been a busy time. We've been to Kingsport, Knoxville, Greenville, Johnson City, Greenville,
Well, you
And here
have.
we are.
I haven't. I stayed
and
here.
here we are.
I stayed here and watched TV.
Were you eating bonbons?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
No, I started watching UT a minute ago.
Let's not discuss it.
Well, I quickly got over that.
Let's not discuss it.
So yeah, things are starting to green up around here. Although today's kind of overcast. I don't know if you can see it for the porch railing. What looks like a forest fire back there. We've been doing some wildlife habitat enhancement, some prescribed burns. It's that time of year for that, so that's why that's all black and charred back there. It will soon spring forth with lush native greenery, which is beneficial to
Greenery is beneficial, yes.
right to our target species is quail. But if quail benefit, then everything else benefits.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yes.
what else? Anything else on your mind?
We did have a question.
We got lots of questions. I've
We
got a
do,
question.
thank you. Oh, okay, go ahead. What's
No,
your question?
No, I mean, it's going to be a long answer, so go ahead.
Oh, no. Okay. The question was, what's the difference between grass-fed beef versus the beef that one would buy in the grocery store, which is grain-fed?
Well, okay, that actually plays into the question that I was asked.
Okay.
So I'll try to
Right, let's go.
channel those. So basically, there's three main types of beef as far as the production methods go. You have grass-fed, grass-finished, which is what we do, which means the cattle are out in the pasture eating grass until they go to the processor and get made into steaks and hamburger. Then you have almost everybody else around us, and like what most people, like when you're driving down the road and you pass a farm and there's cows out grazing in the field, probably 90+% chance that you're seeing grass-fed, grain-finished, which means about 30 to 60, well, those cattle graze on pasture their whole lives, majority of their lives, up until about the last 30 to 60 days, depending on your preference. Then they generally get put up, literally or figuratively, brought into the barn lot, and are fed copious amounts of corn, hence the grain finished. So the thought behind that is eating grain, corn is a carbohydrate, so eating corn adds fat. Fat is marbling, fat tastes good. So you've got those two, and then I'll let you speak to some of the nutritional content in a minute. Then you have probably 99% of the beef that you see in the grocery store is raised in a feedlot. And I won't go into great detail about a feedlot other than to say that we have on our blog, I did a post that walks you through all the labels that you find in the grocery store: grass-fed, grain-finished, free range, all natural, all that. And I talk about conventional production methods versus our production methods and try to give you just as much as I can, an unbiased A/B of which is which. So a feedlot, if any of you have ever traveled out in the Midwest, you've probably driven by one.
Or smelled one from far away.
As I was going to say, and if you've seen one, you've smelled one long before you saw it. But thank you for finishing my thought for me. A feedlot is a place where weaned calves are sent to a central location, which generally, I mean, I don't think I'm saying anything other than fact. It's acres and acres and acres. Some of the big ones out in the Midwest are, acres and acres and acres and acres and acres of corrals and stockades where cattle are kept, and they're fed a very scientifically formulated diet that consists heavily of grains, heavily of things like, what am I trying to say? Cottonseed hulls.
Gummy bears, everything.
Well, no.
They do.
Really? What flavor?
All of them.
Grass flavored?
No, all of them.
So these feedlots, there's no grass within miles and miles and miles and miles, and some of them are, I mean, I find them all disgusting. They're all, I mean, some of them are really disgusting, you know. I mean, the cows are standing around in these gigantic corrals pooping all day, and they get fed this diet, and because of a lot of these things, because there's so many cows there, because of their diet, they get fed a lot of preventative medicines, antibiotics, and a lot of different things.
Hormones.
Yeah, implants and all that kind of stuff. So there was one more that I thought of a minute ago.
Pasture raised is a big new phrase that people are seeing, and that was another question.
Well, and here's one thing you got to watch out for. I'm seeing a lot of people saying grass-fed / finished.
Right.
Which is not the same thing as grass-fed, grass-finished. That's kind of a little shell game.
It's all a shell game, really.
Trickery thing.
Right.
But,
pasture raised.
Well, pasture raised could mean, I mean, it could be one of those two the first two that I said. It could be grass-fed, grass-finished, or it could be grass-fed, grain-finished.
Or it could potentially be a feedlot if there is pasture. If there is pasture at some point in time. It just, when you see pasture raised on a label, that means that animal was raised in a pasture.
I've never seen a feedlot with a pasture.
It doesn't speak to anything that they eat. Pasture raised doesn't mean their diet. That means.
So you're more up on the nutritional numbers and the nutritional jargon on that. So walk them through the difference, either the difference between grass finished and grain finished, or walk them through what grain finishing does.
Okay. And I will say first that I did a deep dive on our blog with all of the research, and it also has links to all of the sites. Basically, for our time here, what I will say in a nutshell is that grass-fed, grass-finished beef is very high in omega-3s. Omega-3s,
which are good for you.
That's what you want. That is an animal product that you want. It's a non-inflammatory or anti-inflammatory.
Is that what's in fish oil?
Yes.
High quantities.
Wild caught. Which
right.
is different
but
than
I mean,
this farm raised.
That's why you take fish oil, right?
Right. But it just, it's just like when you go to a restaurant and they say, oh, farm raised catfish or farm raised salmon. Well, the reason that you don't want that is because those animals are also eating grains, eating corn. Well, that's not their natural diet, and so they also, just like cattle, they have to have all these
that's the other
medication.
Thing. Cattle have a rumen. They don't have a gizzard.
Right, and they are made to eat grass, so changing them to grain makes them sick, physically sick. And so one of the ways that farmers can get around sick cows eating corn, because corn helps them grow quickly, grain helps them grow quickly, grow more, like Barry said, creates marbling.
Puts on weight a lot faster than grass.
We all want that marbled steak.
It tastes good. I'll say it tastes good.
And the issue with that is, one of the issues, there are several issues with that. One of the issues is that in order to make that cow or make that catfish or make that salmon digest an unnatural diet, you have to take medication. Just like if you went to McDonald's 3 times a day, 7 days a week for 30 days, you would have to take medication because your tummy would be upset. So
Just like,
their GI systems become very inflamed, and they have to take hormones, antibiotics, and steroids to decrease the inflammation. But what that does is that changes their pH, that changes their whole being, and so that changes their omegas from omega-3s to omega-6s. That is inflammatory for you. That is one of the big differences. And you can look at all of the research that's on our blog. Much less fat content, much less caloric content, much better for you. There's not going to be antibiotics. We don't give any antibiotics to any animals here. We don't give steroids. We don't give growth hormones. And so you're eating beef that has a very, very, very high level of omega-3 versus omega-6. It's interesting.
It's just beef.
Interesting.
I mean, it's like...
Right. It's not beef plus antibiotics.
I mean,
beef plus...
Yeah.
Yeah. But very interesting that there's been lots of research done in these pockets around the world, Barry, where people live to be over 100
Like
years
in
old.
Italy with all the red wine?
Yes.
Yes.
I bet they drink orange wine too.
I don't know about that.
And Italy, Japan, the Pacific Northwest, they have these pockets where people live to be over 100.
But now Japan has Wagyu beef, and that's like
these people,
fatty beef times 1,000.
But these people aren't eating this. So what? Okay, so what do all these populations have in common, where you have pockets of multiple people living to be over 100 and living very healthy? Like Olivia de Havilland, remember? Do you remember?
I know who Olivia.
Melly?
Yeah.
Yeah, Melanie.
Yeah.
They
I
call
mean,
her
I know
Melanie.
who she
Yeah, yeah.
is. I don't
She-
remember. What am I supposed to remember?
She just died at 104.
Okay.
She rode her bike until she was over 100. So these
long
people
time.
who are living very healthy lives over 100. So what do they have in common? Well, they have multiple things in common. They get 30 to 60 minutes of exercise almost every day, generally riding bikes or either walking. They drink red wine. They have a social network, but they eat very, very, very high levels of omega-3s. So their omega-3 to omega-6 ratio is 20 to 1, where in America we have totally reversed that. And the American diet is generally 1 omega-3 to at least 5 omega-6s. That's one reason why we're so inflamed. We have all these chronic diseases. And again, I go through all of that, and I can get on my soapbox about that, but I'll stop. But that's what I would say. Grass-fed, grass-finished beef is higher in omega-3s, which is going to be non-inflammatory to you. It's going to be very healthy for you. Decreased fat, decreased calories. It's just much better. It's just beef, the way God intended us to
Grass,
eat beef.
fresh air, and sunshine.
That's right. So back to you.
So the question I had was, and there was a little more to it that I don't remember exactly without having it in front of me, but basically the gist of the question from a new YouTube channel subscriber of ours was, why is beef so expensive? So I have a couple of thoughts about that. My first thought is, I mean, I can't remember the last time I bought beef in a grocery store, but
I can. I know. Go ahead.
But if they're talking about grocery store beef, then most recently it's because of the pandemic and all the fallout from that. And I don't know how many, we of course paid more attention to it than probably the average citizen did, but there were a lot of these big, huge packing plants, slaughterhouses out in the Midwest that a lot of the workers got COVID, and so these places had to close. So there was a huge, as everybody probably realized, you probably went to the grocery store and there was nothing there. So, supply and demand, plus I don't know if any of the beef processors have been under scrutiny for this, but a lot of those. I mean, there's only 4 or 5 major processors in the country that control everything. And one of them is owned by the Chinese and one of them is owned by the South Americans, the Brazilians. But anyway, I don't know if this washes over or is related, but I know, I mean, this is fact. You can look it up. There's at least 1, maybe 2 major poultry processors that are under, I think the investigation's over by the, I assume it'd be the Justice Department rather than the USDA for price gouging. During the pandemic, they were price gouging chicken prices. So as it relates to grocery store meat, I'm sure prices are probably a lot higher than they were in, say, November of 2019. So I know our prices are higher than grocery store prices. But to me, there's a lot of reasons for that. One, we have I call it, a lot of people mostly use this term with bourbon or something like that, but we have a small batch premium product. I mean, I'm out there with the cows every day looking at each one of them. I know each one of them's personality and each one of them's temperament. And I know if one of them's dragging behind a little bit or if there's something I need to be looking out for. And that, combined with all the work that goes into raising animals the way we do to provide a healthier product based on the things you were talking about, I mean, we're not getting rich.
No. Well, also, I think one thing also that neither one of us hit on, but we both know, but not everybody knows, is that one other byproduct of grain finish is you push those animals through super quick. And so to get an animal, to get, let's say, a steer ready for harvest, if you want to push them through on grains, you can do that very quickly and get them up to market weight in 6 to 9 months. Versus grass-fed, grass-finished.
You're looking at 2 years.
At least 24 months. So 9 months to 24 months. Well, they can do, 2.5 rounds quicker than we can do 1 round. Mm-hmm. So that also plays into prices. But I will also say that, and I've read a lot about this, but I read a lot about this, and I don't expect everybody else to. Cheap food is an illusion. And so you can go and buy very cheap food that's produced cheaply, quickly, that is pushed through without regard to nutrition or animal husbandry, if we're talking about animals, not necessarily plants, but animals, a level of animal husbandry that you're not going to get from a feedlot. If you have 500 cattle, you can't go out and see that, Slim is just not doing...
You can't observe, no.
Slim's not doing as good as he did yesterday. What's wrong with him? Or so there is a level of care that you can either pay for at the cash register in the grocery store, or you can pay for that at the cash register at the pharmacy. And that's your choice, and that's everyone's choice.
And that was something I was trying to figure out a way to get into, is one of the main culprits is the conventional commodity/subsidy-based agriculture system in this country. And I won't go all the way into this. I'll try to just throw out enough to where you kind of know what I'm talking about. Agricultural commodities are basically agricultural products that are some would say, I don't know what the right word is, but that you can basically trade in, grains like on futures and that kind of thing. And there's 5 of them that are subsidized commodities by the USDA, the United States Department of Agriculture: corn, soybeans, wheat, cotton, and the other one is rice. Probably rice. I can't remember.
I have never understood commodities.
Well, basically commodities, and this all springs out of the Farm Bill, which you may hear about in the news every 4 or 5 years when it comes up for renewal.
And you think, those darn farmers, why are they costing us so much? But there's so much more thrown into that Farm Bill.
Yeah. So the Farm Bill consists of all these programs and it started to help farmers through the the Dust Bowl and the Great Depression and all that was going on in that time. And of course, if anything ever gets put into law, it never goes away. So,
do you mean government just gets bigger and bigger?
So commodities, there's different forms that it takes. Farmers can get paid to raise a particular crop that may be not very popular, or the price may not be up to where most people want to raise it, or they can get paid to not raise a crop. Like years ago, we were part of, East Tennessee this farm was built on burley tobacco. And then once the government eventually figured out that smoking was bad for you and they wanted everybody to stop raising it, they paid us all to go out of business, to go out of the tobacco business. Then there's also readily available low-cost crop insurance and any number of other programs that even as a farmer it boggles my mind to try to keep up with, which I really don't. But so anyway, through your tax dollars, your money is going into these subsidies to pay. And here's another thing: the numbers might be able to fluctuate a little bit in one direction or the other, but the numbers that I've read is that less than 10% of the farmers in the United States receive over 70% of the subsidies. And a pretty good number of those farmers, landowners, were in the Forbes top 400 wealthiest Americans. So if this stuff is not going to help the guy that you drive down the road going to Lowe's
or anybody we know.
Well, I mean, everybody, not everybody, but most people get a little bit. But like even for the tobacco buyout, that might have paid for my Starbucks for a year. I don't know. Anyway.
And we don't go to we don't even have a Starbucks.
Well, like when I'm traveling. So, what was I trying to say? The government basically pays a lot of the bigger farmers, particularly like in the Midwest, that raise acres and acres and acres and acres and acres and acres and acres of corn. Or the next year they'll raise all those acres in soybeans. It's the dangest thing. It's a unhealthy monoculture. I mean, I go out there and I've traveled out there, I hunt out there, and to go out in some of these places in South Dakota and it just looks like a moonscape. It's the blackest dirt you've ever seen, and it's corn stalks, and there's nothing else. No weeds, no grass, nothing. But the government partially pays, through these subsidies, people to raise corn or wheat or soybeans or whatever. So that drives the prices down. That keeps them artificially low, and a lot of that stuff goes into high fructose corn syrup, soybean oil, ethanol, particularly the food type products that go over into, well, that's what they make junk food out of. That's what they make fast food out of. So that's
Right.
why you can drive through Wendy's and get a whole sack full of food a lot cheaper than you can go to the grocery store and buy a pack of baby carrots.
Right. I'm sure everybody has seen those. If you haven't, you might ought to look it up. You can do a quick Google search. There was a teacher who had it wasn't a Big Mac. It was like a cheeseburger and French fries from McDonald's. McDonald's. And
I love McDonald's. I love the taste of McDonald's, but I realize that, I mean, I haven't eaten it in a long time. But, I mean, I'm not saying like, oh, McDonald's. It's science.
right. It is
trick your taste buds.
total science.
I mean, there's nothing better than McDonald's fries.
I have done a lot of research and a lot of continuing education courses for physical therapy about the science in your kitchen. What's food, what's not. But what I was going to say is this teacher went through, I think back in the 80s, and got French fries and a cheeseburger from McDonald's and still has it on her desk.
Just set it out on the desk.
Right.
And it's still sitting there.
Right.
Hasn't changed one bit.
Right. So is that food? No, that's not food. No. A real banana.
Well, that's the other thing. I've gotten into deep conversations with some friends of mine that live in these areas. Some of them are farmers, some of them are hunters, some of them in between. But, you know, like Iowa or South Dakota or wherever, where it's corn and soybeans as far as you can see. You know, it's all farming country, but yet they're not really growing food, or at least they're not growing food. There's nobody that lives within 100 miles of any particular cornfield out there that is getting food from that corn.
Right. Yeah. It's a
Unless
monoculture.
by happenstance they might happen to buy the right bag of Doritos.
Right. So that is a really...
That's a lot.
That's a really good deep dive into...
Oh, that's not the deep
food.
dive. That's the Cliff Notes.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Into food and beef especially, and why that is. And unfortunately for you all, we've also had questions about chicken and eggs. So we may go into that in future episodes, but for probably right
Next time.
now, you're dry.
Which came first, chicken or egg?
Well, God created Adam and Eve, and they were adults, so I guess the chicken.
All the birds and the fowls of the air?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I bet Adam was like, what is that?
I'd say the chicken was like that too. What was that?
Those poor chickens. Okay, anyway, have a good weekend. Thank you.
Before our hot rod neighbors start up, thanks. Y'all have a good weekend. Bye.